So we've seen a lot of talk recently about statues and the collective memory. Obviously, has been talked about the statue of Edward Colston being removed by the Black Lives Matter protesters. After a sustained campaign for years, Oriel College, Oxford, have agreed to get rid of the Cecil Rhodes statue. And obviously, we've also, yesterday, we saw the horrific news of the racist desecration of Scipio Africanus's grave down in Bristol, and enslaved African who find themselves in Bristol. And the message there was very loud and clear that an attack on the establishment will be met with more brutalization of our racialized communities. So I believe that statues and monuments reflect what society is proud of, what it values, and its aspirations of what it wants to model. And if that's true, Manchester is in an unfortunate situation where it seems to value soft drinks more than the contributions of Black people. Manchester has a long Black history, so we wanted to address that, and we want to think that one of the best places to start would be one of Manchester's heroes, an unsung hero in many ways, is Len Johnson. Len Johnson was a boxer, he was an activist, he was a social campaigner, and one of the first real Black radical activists in this city. Len was born in Clayton, just in northeast Manchester, to a Sierra Leonean father and a white mother of Irish descent. He found himself in workplace, as you can imagine. It wasn't so easy being a mixed race lad in Manchester at the time. He was born in 1906, I believe, and he found himself in a fight. And it turned out Len was actually pretty handy. He was went to work was introduced to a local boxing gym and ended up having this incredible boxing record of almost 100 victories, a few draws, and hardly any defeats. In any other time, Len would have been a champion, except at the time, due to the work of our friend Winston Churchill and some people from the church, there was a colour bar. Black boxers were not allowed to fight for titles at the time, and so this was an outrage to a lot of people. There was a huge gatherings in the street, a lot of campaigns, but ultimately it was for naught. But Len was a fighter, not just in the ring, but outside. Len saw the rise of fascism around Europe at the time, and got involved in local politics and local activism. In his Clayton, where he was born, and in the Moss Side community. He co-founded the International Club on Grafton Street, which was there for the Black people and people of colour who were in Manchester to get a voice and to do collective action. He attended the Pan-African Conference in 1945, which had such people as Kwame Nkrumah and W.E.B. Du Bois, who were really organised the anti-colonial struggle for Black people across the world in the wake of the Second World War. And in 1948, he found, in 1948, there was the case of the Trenton Six in New Jersey. Now, these were 6 lads who were stitched up essentially by the state, as we see now, and we've seen throughout the 21st century, even before that. Now, Len knew what the score was, and the Black people of Manchester knew what the score was. When through his contacts as a boxer, he managed to get the world-famous campaigner and singer Paul Robeson to Manchester, and held the first Black-led political rally in Manchester. Now, it was the first who like, how many people would come? Maybe a couple of hundred, like we might see on Piccadilly Gardens any given day. Maybe a couple thousand. Len got 10,000 activists out on the streets. He was a proud trade unionist, was our Len. So not only was active there, he was advocating for workers' rights and interracial solidarity. Len knew the power of black people and white people coming together and fighting fighting oppression, and that's why I launched the campaign to get Len a statue built, because we have no black monuments, public monuments to black people in our city. And you know who would be a great person to have a start? I think that Len Johnson would be a great one to be there. So yeah, I think that's what I've got to say. I would say only add that we have an article on the Tribune Mag, that's tribunemag.co.uk, all about Len, and on there's a link to a Change.org petition, and I'd really urge anybody to sign it. It only takes a couple of minutes, and let's make some history, eh?